Warning: do not watch on an empty stomach and make sure your fridge is well stocked.
The sudden appearance of the great elder of the Black Dragon clan, Metadonna, shattered the sweet atmosphere between Ellison and Rurin. Without a word, Rurin punched him straight in the face, shouting loudly, "What the hell is this? Why are you here?" Metadonna stammered, his face flushed with embarrassment. "But, I'm the elder." Despite being confused by the sudden turn of events, Ellison gently spoke. "Calm down, Rurin, I called him here." Rurin turned sharply, her eyes wide with surprise. "What? It was you?" Metadonna, now regaining his composure, asked in a more serious tone. "All right, what is so important that you had to summon me?" Ellison nodded and replied, "I think you've already guessed. You've witnessed the awakening. We're talking about the matter of the ancient dragon stones." The conversation continued in the restaurant hall. Ellison, youthful but sharp, and Metadonna, old but filled with authority, sat together. Ellison poured a glass of cognac VSOP from a crystal bottle and offered it to Metadonna. The golden liquid gleamed under the light, shimmering like molten gold, emitting a rich and intoxicating aroma. The great elder examined the glass in his hand and asked curiously, "What kind of wine is this?" Ellison, with a hint of pride, replied, "This is one of the rare things I brought back from my journey. Only I could have found it." Metadonna took a sip, his eyes closing as he savored every drop. The taste was pure yet strong, like the first breeze of spring, filling every sense. After a moment, he spoke slowly. "This wine has been aged for a long time, with a deep and refined flavor. About 60 to 75 years. Right?" Ellison stood frozen, speechless at the elder's extraordinary ability to analyze the drink. He really is a monster. Just one taste and he knows everything. Editor comment: "It seems the author made a mistake here. Let me explain for those of you who may not be familiar with cognac. Cognac is a type of brandy produced in the Cognac region of France. Distilled from wine created during the fermentation process of grapes. After aging in oak barrels for a period of time, it is bottled and sold worldwide. Here are some indicators of the wine's age. 3 stars, equivalent to VS very special, relatively young wine. Aged 3 to 5 years. VSOP, very superior old pale, aged between 7 and 10 years. Napoleon, aged over 10 years. XO, extra old, quite expensive. Aged over 20 years. High quality. Extra Vale, or Grande Reserve. These are especially rare. Aged over 45 years. So, in the above scene where Metadonna says the wine has been aged for 60 to 75 years and Ellison silently agrees. It doesn't make sense. Since the bottle on the table is only VSOP, maybe the author isn't too knowledgeable about European wines. Personally, I prefer whiskey over cognac. Alright, let's get back to the story at the Grand Mage's restaurant. Meanwhile, Rurin sneakily approached the bottle, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. She gently reached for it, wanting to taste the flavor that Metadonna had just praised. But just as her hand was about to touch the neck of the bottle, a sharp pop sounded, startling her. Ellison, quick as lightning, flicked her head gently, his voice filled with reproach. "No way. The alcohol content of this wine is too high. You'll pass out instantly." Rurin started to cry. "But, fine, just give me beer then." Metadonna sighed softly, releasing a breath of alcohol, and a subtle smile curled on his lips. "Ellison, you always act so recklessly. Don't you? Have you forgotten? We are dragons, after all." Ellison raised an eyebrow. "What did I do wrong?" Metadonna took another sip of wine, speaking as he drank. "Yes, you're still stuck in the mindset after the war. But today, you've caused a big issue, killing Nizi in front of so many witnesses." Rurin angrily retorted. "That was Nizi's fault. If Elle hadn't done it, I would have." Ellison followed up. "As you saw, I almost died." Metadonna smirked. "Don't play innocent. You specifically asked me not to interfere." Caught off guard by the accusation, Ellison was rendered speechless, while Rurin, equally shocked, screamed, "What? You did that?" Metadonna continued. "Absorbing the ancient dragon stones grants overwhelming power. 2 stones will make a dragon dominant over their kind. But as for 3, well, you know, absorbing 3 ancient dragon stones gives one the power to rule over all dragonkind. In the previous war, you already acquired 2 stones from the battle, along with the heart of the Dragon Lord. And this time, I can sense that you have. Ellison erupted with a powerful burst of mana. Interrupting the conversation. Yes, I've absorbed the 3rd one. If I were a dragon, I would become the lord of all dragons. Metadonna nodded. Just as I expected. Ellison continued. Are there many more of these ancient stones? Metadonna thought for a moment. Then said, normally, no. When a dragon lord is born, the stones disappear, but since a human has absorbed them, no one knows for sure what will happen. Ellison, deep in thought, muttered gravely, someone is trying to resurrect the dragon lord from the dead. Metadonna was startled, breaking into a cold sweat, while Rurin interrupted. Are you talking about those people at the dwarf mines? Ellison nodded. Yes. A group of dragons attacked the place where I found the stone. I need you to investigate this. Metadonna remained calm and responded. Fine, I'll have it investigated right away. But you absorbed the stone in front of so many people. Was it for this reason? Ellison nodded. Exactly. If anyone tries to resurrect the Dragon Lord, they'll have to come to me first. And the ancient dragon marble stone will never be revealed while I'm alive. Rurin stood in stunned silence, her face filled with worry. Meanwhile, Metadonna sighed and raised an eyebrow mockingly. So you're turning yourself into bait again? Still using the same old foolish tricks? Before he could finish his sentence, he received a direct punch to the face from Rurin, followed by a sharp scream. Don't insult Ellison. Metadonna clutched his head, collapsing onto a chair, groaning in pain. After all, I'm still the Grand Elder. Rurin tilted her chin defiantly. So what? Ellison merely chuckled, shaking his head at Metadonna. Then said, I'll leave this investigation to you. Grand Elder. The scene shifted to Alina's apothecary, a charming little house with a green roof nestled under an ancient tree, glistening in the morning sunlight. The narrator couldn't help but marvel. What a beautiful home. I'd love to have a place like this, small, cozy, and in harmony with nature. In an age filled with urban noise and pollution, finding such a peaceful place is truly rare. Elena, just back from foraging, held bundles of fresh herbs. Suddenly, a cold voice echoed from behind her. What took you so long? Startled, Elena turned pale and screamed in fear, before falling to the ground. It was Serena, an imposing red dragon, who had appeared without her noticing. Serena sneered. Why are you so jumpy? I like this place, and I'll stay here for a while longer. Still stammering, Elena replied in surprise. But I heard your domain has already been repaired. Serena casually responded. That place is too vast. And I'm still a patient. You can't kick me out. With that, Serena immediately flopped down on the bed, pretending to be a real patient. Elena, flustered, tried to protest, but Serena swiftly grabbed her hand and pulled her onto the bed. If you teach me how to channel mana, I'll help you heal everyone, Serena said confidently. Elena hesitated. But I'm a vegetarian and you might not like this kind of food. Serena interrupted, dismissing her concerns. I can eat at a restaurant, it's not a problem. The scene shifted again to a dark forest. Gerd, Serena's former lover, was running for his life. He panted heavily, his terrified eyes glancing behind him, where Sydney, a seductive yet deadly red dragon, stood, smoking a pipe. Sydney smirked, asking disdainfully, What should I do with you? She continued, her voice icy. We tasked you with attacking the dwarf mines. But you failed. You couldn't even breach the entrance. Then, you let the black dragons capture you when attacking the human village. You allowed them to exploit your weakness. So, tell me, should I let you live? Gerd, trembling, screamed in desperation. Wait, Ellison has absorbed 3 of the ancient dragon stones. If we capture him, the plan will succeed. Sydney raised an eyebrow in surprise. But without hesitation, she slashed her hand, summoning a blade of wind that cut straight through Gerd's neck. He collapsed, eyes wide with horror, before drawing his last breath. Good information, but not enough to save your life, Sydney said coldly, looking down at Gyurd's lifeless body. The story returned to Ellison's restaurant. After the guests had left, Ellison and Rurin began cleaning up. Rurin asked, her voice full of concern, "Do you plan to keep running this restaurant like before?" Ellison chuckled softly and replied, "I've left the investigation to the Grand Elder. For now, there's nothing else for us to do." Suddenly, a cheerful voice rang out from the door. "I've returned with a gift for you." It was Nellin, a young man working in the mines. Holding a bright, pinkish stone, Ellison glanced at the stone and smiled. "Ah, that's rock salt." Nellin was surprised. "Rock salt? Oh, so that's why my elders thought you'd like it." Ellison looked at the stone, recalling his distant past as a young, inexperienced recruit. Meanwhile, Rurin curiously picked up a small piece of the rock, popped it into her mouth, and immediately screamed, "Ah, so salty." The scene then transitioned to 15 years ago, when Ellison was a timid teenager who had just been transported to this world and forcibly conscripted into the Empire's army during a war with the dragons. As he stepped into the training camp to register, his Korean name was too difficult to pronounce, so the commanding officer changed his name to Ellison, a name that would later become legendary. The officer handed the future Grand Wizard a slip of paper and coldly said, "Take this and head to the next building to collect your basic supplies." When Ellison first joined the military, he felt as though he had been thrown into an entirely foreign world. Everything here overwhelmed him, from the strict orders to the tense atmosphere. Even something as simple as lifting his luggage became an impossible task. He struggled, but the baggage was too heavy, causing the commander to look at him with disappointment while his fellow recruits showed their disdain. In this new environment, all faces were unfamiliar, and orders rang out relentlessly: sleep on time, wake up on time, and under no circumstances make noise. When the door to the sleeping quarters slammed shut, the room was filled with the sobbing of exhausted recruits and the painful groans of the wounded. Ellison lay on his bed, tossing and turning, thinking non-stop, "I wish tomorrow wouldn't come." He pulled the blanket over his head, trying to hide his emotions. Silent tears rolled down his face, but he dared not cry out loud, fearing that even the slightest sound would break the strict discipline. But the most terrifying thing, the thing that scared him more than the ironclad rules or the numerous injuries, was the food. Ellison swallowed hard, staring at the meal in front of him. Seriously, who could eat this? Ellison sat staring blankly at the people around him. Everyone was eating naturally, showing no discomfort with the food in front of them. But in his mind, countless tangled questions popped up. Impossible to understand. What the hell is going on? Is everyone really okay with having just one menu for 2 weeks of training? We have to eat this every day, and no one gets bored? Or, am I the weird one here? As this thought crossed his mind, Ellison suddenly felt uneasy. He began to worry, wondering if he was the only one who found this situation odd. Am I different from them? Am I missing something? These chaotic thoughts kept spinning in his head, refusing to stop. Suddenly, he decided to try a bite. As soon as he put the food in his mouth, Ellison felt his whole body go numb. The taste was so horrible that he collapsed onto the table. He closed his eyes, trying to endure it, but in the end, he couldn't hold it in. This stuff is unbearable, just a pinch of salt. And it could taste so much better. Ellison groaned silently in his mind, feeling both miserable and powerless. He glanced around. There's no way I'm the only one noticing this. In fact, a few other recruits had begun to look uncomfortable, whispering quietly to each other. The food here is really bad. What do you think? Another person responded reluctantly. Yeah, it's not great. But at least it's edible. Ellison sighed. Everyone had the same feeling. But they ate because there was no other choice. However, the atmosphere in the training camp wasn't dampened, and people continued to eat, even though their hearts were full of reluctance. And so the miserable life of a recruit continued. The pains from the training eased after a week or two, as their bodies gradually adapted. By then, Ellison had only one thought: if I want to open a restaurant, I need to learn how to endure these terrible experiences. However, that thought quickly faded as each day he faced 3 dreadful meals. In his mind, Ellison prayed for a way to change his fate, or at least find a source of salt. If only there were a sea nearby. He thought, they would surely make salt, and the food would taste much better. But where was the sea? And did anyone hear the whispers in his mind? Life kept repeating like this. Until one day, the appearance of a new figure sparked hope for change. That morning, a royal level 5 mage named Vane appeared on the training ground. He boldly declared before the recruits, "Today, you will learn offensive magic. I am Vane, a level 5 royal mage. If you can learn, the opportunity to become a magic warrior of the Empire won't be far off." These words left the recruits speechless. Becoming a royal mage was the dream of many, but it was also a great challenge. The gaze of the recruits gradually became more serious, and hope was reignited in their hearts. Vane continued, "The first step is to learn how to sense mana. Close your eyes, focus on your inner senses, so you can recognize the flow of mana around you." He raised a finger, creating a small white light that slowly transformed into a green orb surrounded by magical symbols. This is Ra, the foundation of all magic. The perfection of your magic depends on how well you can control this, Ra. Ellison listened attentively. Mana? So this is what I've heard of in the legends. Meanwhile, Vane continued his demonstration, magical circles glowing around him as he transformed them into a blazing red fireball that shot straight at a scarecrow, burning it in an instant. If you can do this, it will be the most basic offensive spell, a fireball. Now, who wants to try first? Vane asked, scanning the recruits with sharp eyes. Everyone began focusing, trying to follow Vane's instructions, but most failed. Vane grew frustrated, thinking, I need to find someone with more potential. Perhaps only special individuals like me can succeed. Maybe that's it. Suddenly, a massive fireball emerged from the crowd, completely destroying the training ground and even collapsing part of a nearby cliff. Everyone was stunned, and the person responsible for the accident was Ellison. Vane shouted in disbelief. How did you do that? How did you use such a large amount of mana? Ellison stammered, I just followed your instructions. How did you gather such a huge amount of mana? Vane asked again, still in shock. Ellison hesitated. Isn't everything around us just mana? Vane was even more astonished. You can see the mana in the air? Unbelievable. The training session quickly ended, and Ellison was taken to the training camp's command room. Commander Thorant sat behind his desk, contemplating. This boy has an extremely rare sensitivity to mana. We need to delay sending him to the front lines. Ellison should receive advanced magic training immediately. Eavesdropping outside the door, Ellison couldn't hide his joy. But that joy quickly faded when Vane appeared with a furious expression. Don't get ahead of yourself. You destroyed the Empire's training ground, and you will restore it with your own money. Perhaps part of Vane wanted to take Ellison straight to the battlefield because of his talent. But since that didn't happen, Vane's anger flared. Ellison broke into a cold sweat, thinking, level 5 might be high, but his heart is so petty. Memories of the past suddenly flooded Ellison's mind, recalling the time at home when he was a child. His mother spoke. Oh, our son has been accepted into the Culinary Science Academy, hasn't he? Young Ellison replied shyly, yes. The results were announced just yesterday. His mother beamed. Oh, what a surprise. I'm so proud. No, I think I was just lucky, Ellison said, but his mother remained cheerful, saying, it's not luck, it's your talent. I know it. My son is the best cook in the world. The memories kept flowing, but Ellison then sat down with a sigh. A simple compliment wouldn't hurt anyone. But today, here, a simple compliment from Vane seemed far too extravagant. Suddenly, he noticed tiny, sparkling yellow stones. These were small fragments that had broken off from the mountain wall, with strange angles and a glittering surface. No way. He brought one up to his mouth to taste, then suddenly shouted, this is rock salt. It's actually rock salt. Ellison clenched the piece of rock salt in his hand and stood up with a smile. Wait a minute. What if I use this rock salt in cooking? The next day, at the camp's mess hall, the recruits started receiving their meals. As usual, everything seemed the same, but when they took their first bites, everyone suddenly noticed something different. The flavor has changed. Really? I want another bowl. Me too. Today is truly a great day. Ellison sat to the side, listening to everyone's chatter with immense happiness. He slowly brought his own bowl of soup to his mouth and thought, just a bit of salt can change so much. I'll improve it little by little. At that moment, the commander, who was sitting nearby, spoke to the camp's instructor. Instructor, did we change the chef? Today's meal is really delicious. The instructor replied, the chef hasn't changed, but today's meal is definitely good. Could it be that they added salt? But where would we get salt around here? The commander looked down at the bowl of soup in his hand, lost in thought. From that day forward, Ellison began gradually improving everyone's meals. These guys didn't even wash the potatoes. It's ridiculous. He sighed. While peeling potatoes, Ellison accidentally cut his hand because it was so dark. But even so, his passion for cooking remained undeterred. Eventually, a beautiful golden bowl of potato soup was completed. However, Ellison continued to experiment and create new recipes each night. He tirelessly chopped vegetables, sliced onions, and added seasonings to the camp's meals. A perfect bowl of soup, complete with all the ingredients, sat in Ellison's hands. In that moment, tears streamed down his face. Finally, I've made the dish I've been aiming for. As he cried, Ellison thought, this is it. Do you understand? This is the bare minimum standard for something to be called a meal. Happiness welled up inside him, and Elle smiled with satisfaction. Even though there was no guarantee that the ingredients here would be the same as in his world. This was enough. Ellison was overjoyed as he raised his spoon, ready to taste the first bite of his soup, when suddenly, a voice rang out, Recruit Ellison. Report to the training instructor after you finish your meal. The training camp commander. The Rond unexpectedly appeared behind him with a cold expression, startling Ellison and causing him to break out in a cold sweat. You know the reason, don't you? Ellison, unsure how to respond, could only continue sweating nervously in the tense atmosphere. At the office of the camp commander, the tension was palpable, as if you could feel every bead of sweat rolling down Ellison's face. He sat across from the camp commander, a man renowned for his strictness and icy demeanor. The rumors about him made anyone who encountered him wary. The commander began to speak, his voice deep and as cold as ice. Trainee Ellison, I've heard that you possess special abilities in magic. Is that correct? Ellison tried to remain calm but couldn't help trembling slightly. He responded in a barely audible voice, still shaken by anxiety. Yes. That's true. You know, that's a good thing. The commander continued, his eyes lighting up but offering no warmth. Your magical powers could provide a significant advantage for us in the war. However, he paused, his voice lowering ominously. There are unsettling rumors circulating in the kitchen. The statement hit Ellison like a direct blow, making his heart race faster. He began to feel uneasy. Commander the Rond continued with a scrutinizing gaze, his every word digging deeper into Ellison's growing anxiety. They say someone has been sneaking into the kitchen at odd hours. They're using the kitchen tools to cook. And the frightening part is, if they leave before 5 a.m., we won't be able to catch them. But if they're caught, the punishment will be severe. Each word pierced through Ellison's mind like a sharp blade, causing his sweat to pour even more. He bit his lip, his thoughts spinning wildly, unsure how to respond to the situation. But the commander of the Elven Forest suddenly burst into laughter, though his smile offered no comfort, only adding to the confusion. But that's not the reason I called you here. He said, I wanted to congratulate you on your outstanding performance in the magic training. However, his voice dropped lower, as he extended a scroll to Ellison. Could you destroy this on your way out? Ellison was baffled, still not fully understanding the situation. He stammered, yes. Understood. But as Ellison reached to take the scroll, the commander held it firmly, his cold eyes boring into him. But do you truly understand what I'm saying? Rookie? Remember, if they leave the kitchen before 5 a.m., no one can catch them. Ellison snapped to attention, realizing the hidden message in the commander's words. He quickly left the office with the scroll in hand. His mind swirled with confusion as he headed towards the edge of the forest near the camp. Sitting before a small fire he had just lit, Ellison slowly unrolled the scroll, his head filled with chaotic thoughts, unsure of what he was about to uncover. When the scroll opened, he sighed in relief. The scroll was merely a guide on edible plants in the area. The commander had known everything all along. He was simply giving Ellison a silent permission to continue what he had been doing. From that night onward, Ellison snuck into the kitchen every evening to cook for the camp. With the tacit approval of the commander and the instructors, he began preparing delicious meals for the whole team. Before long, the northern camp became famous far and wide as the place with the best food. Back at the Grand Mage's restaurant, Ellison continued telling Nellie and Rurin about the vegetable soup he had once made for his comrades. With a smile full of nostalgia, he recounted those days. It all started with that salt rock, he said. Nellie, excited, asked, "So now you're cooking those same dishes again? That's amazing." Ellison laughed heartily. Yes. The same flavors, the same recipes, but now with even more cherished memories. However, when the soup was served, it didn't meet Nellie and Rurin's expectations. It's fine, but it's not as good as we thought it would be. At best, it just fills the stomach, they said with disappointed expressions. Ellison tried a spoonful and was immediately taken aback. The flavor of the soup was nowhere near what he remembered. He suddenly realized something. Food isn't just about taste, it's also about the circumstances. Back then, in the training camp, any meal tasted great because we were exhausted and starving. Ellison smiled, understanding that memories and reality often differ. The scene shifted to Alina's clinic, where Serena's screams echoed throughout the house. Food, we need to eat. But Elena wasn't there. Serena slumped over the table, irritated and famished. Suddenly, the door to the clinic swung open. Two children entered, with the older girl leading her younger brother, who was crying in pain. The older girl spoke, her voice filled with worry. "Excuse me, is Elena here? My little brother fell and he's in a lot of pain." Serena stood up and coldly responded. "Elena's not here." Serena's sharp gaze made the girl a little fearful. But she continued, "I know, but could you help treat my brother?" Serena glanced at the boy's scraped knee and nonchalantly replied, "It's just a small cut. It'll heal on its own. Go home and find some bandages to wrap it up." A while later, Elena returned, surprised to see the two children leaving with bright smiles on their faces. Their wounds healed, they thanked Serena, leaving Elena puzzled. Just as she was trying to figure it out, the red-haired woman appeared at the door and shouted, "Why are you just getting here now? I was about to starve to death." Inside, after exchanging a few words, Serena coolly admitted she had used a bit of healing magic on them. But, just this once. Elena was shocked by Serena's kindness. In that moment, the fierce red dragon woman showed a gentle and compassionate side. However, Serena couldn't stand being praised. When Elena called her kind, Serena's face and body turned bright red in embarrassment. She turned away, trying to hide her awkwardness, and shouted angrily, "Don't be ridiculous, I'm not kind at all." Immediately after, the conversation took a more serious turn. Elena explained that she had just returned from the Lord's castle, where someone had fallen into a coma due to a rare toxin that had affected their brain. Serena, hearing this, began to ponder, recalling that there was someone who had extensively studied toxins and brain-related issues. But unfortunately, Serena couldn't remember the person's name, leaving Elena disappointed. Just then, an unusual bird flew in from the elf forest, bringing a letter from Elena's homeland. The letter made her tremble in disbelief as she read it. The elf forest, her home, was in danger of being destroyed by a dragon, and the only solution was for her to become the dragon's bride, to save the forest. Elena, tearful and panicking, didn't know what to do when faced with the reality that she might have to marry a dragon to protect her homeland. Seeing Elena's distress, Serena simply scoffed and sighed in relief. Showing her confidence, she said that this wasn't a big deal, as such threats were common among dragons. The fierce red dragon woman boldly declared that she would help Elena deal with the dragon. sitting down with an aura of power. Serena, full of fire and resolve, said, "Take me to the elf forest. I'll teach that dragon some manners." The story continues with the peaceful scenery of the elf forest, as the messenger bird flies gracefully through the green leaves, carrying important news from afar. The morning light filtered through the gaps in the leaves, casting warm golden rays on the damp earth. Inside a house, the leader of the elf tribe, Neria, sat in deep thought. An elf girl entered, her eyes filled with worry. "Lady Neria, I just received the news. The letter has been safely delivered." Neria exhaled a breath of relief, though a hint of anxiety remained. "We weren't sure if the letter would make it out of the forest. But hearing this news eases my heart." The elf girl stood silently for a moment, then cautiously continued, "But, Lady Neria, were we too reckless in writing such a detailed letter? And Elena, will she really return with the threat of that dragon looming?" Neria frowned, the concern on her face deepening, and she sighed softly, her gaze distant. "Elena will return. She may be timid, but she has a kind heart. However, I'm not sure if she is strong enough to face that dragon." The scene shifts to Grake City. Elena, with her small frame and a confused look on her face, felt slightly shaky as Serena stood before her, visibly furious. Serena's voice boomed like thunder. "Elena, do you not trust me? I tried so hard to look cool and intimidating. Why did you bring them here?" "Them," referred to Ellison and Rurin, who were both standing there. Elle, with a blank expression, remarked, "The restaurant is closed today." Meanwhile, Rurin chimed in, annoyed, "What's your problem with that?" Serena, still fuming, glared at Elena with fiery eyes. The red dragoness's threatening voice continued, "Do you know how much I've endured to protect you? And now you bring along these people?" Elena trembled with fear, her voice barely a whisper. I don't mean to doubt you, Serena, but they're here to help us. I just want to make sure everything is well prepared." Ellison, in a mockingly thoughtful tone, said, "That's right. If Serena goes alone, she might end up with a few holes in her back like last time. And then Elena will have to endure the pain to heal her again." Rurin quipped to Elena, "She's such a nuisance." Serena growled, her fists clenched, but she couldn't deny the truth in their words. Last time, she had been ambushed and severely wounded. Her voice was filled with anger but also a hint of resignation. "Last time, they caught me off guard in numbers." Ellison laughed heartily. "Even so, we should go meet the candidate for Elena's husband." Elena blushed furiously, crying out in embarrassment, "Please stop joking." And so, an odd group of 3 powerful friends and 1 healer set out from the city, heading toward the elf forest. The scene shifts to the forest. The sky had begun to darken, thick clouds covering the horizon, casting a gloomy and heavy atmosphere. In the midst of the ancient elf forest, a massive dragon stood towering on the hill. Its eyes glowed blood red, its entire body covered in tough, gleaming scales that reflected the flashes of distant lightning. It opened its massive jaws and let out a deafening roar that shook the forest. "Surrender now, or all of you will perish." Its roar echoed through the space, and the very ground seemed to tremble. After a long journey, or rather, a flight, the group of 4 finally arrived at the land of the elves. As soon as they landed, Elena, the doctor of the group, spoke up. "I apologize, Ellison, but this land has a mechanism to disable teleportation." Ellison just nodded, not too bothered. He had experienced something similar in the dwarven mines earlier, so this was nothing new. As they were about to go deeper, they were suddenly stopped by a commanding voice. A barrage of arrows from the elf archers aimed straight at them. The leader of the archer group, Lilinia, spoke up. "Who are you, and why dare you invade the elf forest?" Recognizing Lilinia, Elena quickly replied, "Lilinia, lower your bow. It's me, Elena. These people are..." Before she could finish, Lilinia interrupted. "Lady Elena, I don't doubt you, but I still need to confirm the identity of those with you. Who are they and what is their purpose here?" Ellison, noticing the strange light in Lilinia's eyes, something he recognized as the eye of truth, capable of reading people's thoughts and intentions, calmly replied, I am Ellison, of the human race. Here to assist Lady Elena. Lilinha nodded in confirmation, then turned to Serena, the red-haired woman. Next. You. State your race and purpose. Serena replied indifferently. It's obvious. I'm a dragon. Ellison was startled and quickly tried to interject Serena's introduction. Oh, right. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Ellison. I live in the city of Grake and manage a small restaurant. If you have the chance, you can come visit. But Lilinha cut in, ignoring his embarrassment. I'm not asking you. I'm asking the red-haired woman. At that moment, an elf archer came up and whispered something in Lilinha's ear. She quickly signaled for the archers to lower their bows. Elena breathed a sigh of relief. While Rurin, the petite but hot-tempered girl, looked annoyed at the elf's attitude. Lilinha said seriously, I apologize. That's our duty. We couldn't immediately recognize that you were special guests of the queen. Please come in. Entering the elf living area, the scene overwhelmed the group. Tall tree houses, sparkling fountains, and breathtaking natural landscapes made everyone gasp. If only there was a space like this today to build a house and run a homestay business. They would surely make a fortune. In the main hall, Queen Nerea welcomed the group, apologizing for the incident at the entrance. After a round of greetings, Ellison, tired of the noble's greeting style, replied briefly and indifferently, It's nothing. Thank you, Princess Nerea. Elena was surprised to learn that Ellison seemed to know Queen Nerea. However, thinking back to what he had shown in the battle with the Black Dragon, she was not surprised. After a few apologies for the incident at the entrance, Nerea turned to Elena. Elena, I know it wasn't easy for you to come here. I'm so sorry for putting such a heavy burden on you. Elena replied shyly, You mean about being the bride, right? At that moment, Serena interjected, her tone nonchalant. About that, who in their right mind would want to marry her? Serena's words startled Nerea. What did you say? Who in their right mind? What if he hears that? Hearing this, Rurin and Serena, the two noble dragons, immediately erupted with a powerful aura around them. They both said in unison, without any restraint, So what? We're dragons, and our job here is to kick that hypocrite's ass to the moon. Nerea was stunned, unable to believe what she had just heard. Excuse me, what? It seemed that Nerea still didn't believe what she had heard. So Ellison spoke up to explain. Oh, about this. I was going to say this too. This is a long story, and yes, they are indeed noble dragons. Hearing this, Nerea was even more horrified, sweat dripping down her face. Her whole body trembled, then she screamed, echoing through the forest. What? The scene shifted to another, darker place. A large claw was scratching on the cliff, accompanied by a growl. You're running out of time. An ugly, fat, yellow dragon was roaring. It seemed that he was threatening to kill the elf people for not fulfilling something of his. And here, let me introduce you to a new supporting character of a supporting character. A dragon with the face of a pig. Eramantium. This dragon had been tributed by the elves for generations. Nerea, the leader of the elves, trembled and continued. About this, well. Rurin, looking annoyed. Such a noble, more like a beggar. Nerea continued. For over 100 years, he refused to accept gifts and tributes. However, recently he has started demanding that I find an elf to be his bride. Nerea, trembling with fear, knelt and recounted the entire incident, saying that she had tried to be the bride herself to protect her tribe. But the dragon rejected her simply because he didn't like her hairstyle. Other elves were also rejected for ridiculous reasons like big ankles, big noses, or big hands. The whole elf village was shocked to hear that even Nerea, the most beautiful queen, had been rejected. There was no other way. She had to ask Elena. This made Elena feel embarrassed and she asked again. What if I get rejected too? Rurin didn't care much, even angrily said. If that guy hurts you, be proud and cheer up. And led me to his lair. Serena, when she heard the name Eramantium, became thoughtful. She suddenly realized something and shouted. That's right, I remember him. He's a dragon who specializes in studying the brains of different races. He could even heal the Lord of Grake Castle. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. The direction of the story had changed. Instead of chasing the dragon away, they switched to a plan to capture him alive. The doors of the great hall burst open, and an elf warrior ran in and shouted, "Princess Nuria, Eromantium is coming." Nuria was worried, but still reminded that the dragon was very strange. Although he had asked for tributes for generations, he always avoided other dragons. She thought it would be very difficult to catch him. Hearing that, everyone began to make plans, their faces filled with cunning. A voice rang out, "Then we just need something to attract him. A decoy so he won't pay attention to anything else." Then, everyone looked at Elena with unkind eyes. This made her very panicked. "What's wrong? Everyone calm down. Aren't we here to do the opposite?" Elena said fearfully, seeming to have realized everyone's eyes and thoughts. The scene shifted to the edge of the elf forest, where Eromantium had appeared, causing all the elf guards to panic and be on guard. "I order you all to form a formation." The pig-faced dragon roared. "You damned elves, dare you do something wrong to me?" He was angry, opened his mouth wide, and focused his energy to prepare to spit out a dragon's breath to attack all the elves. But at that moment, a voice rang out, "Stop. Your Excellency Eromantium, we apologize for the delay. She is the most beautiful of all the elves, so it took time to prepare for her." Queen Nuria of the elves spoke. Following her was a bride in a white veil. Nuria quickly lifted the veil, revealing a perfect body, with perfect curves, big where it needed to be big, and small where it needed to be small. Very sexy. Elena appeared with a shy face, bowed her head and stood there, slowly saying, I'm Elena." The pig-faced dragon could no longer contain his excitement, shouting, "Oh my god, she's beautiful." He threw his head back and roared with joy. "You should have brought someone like her from the beginning." While he was madly rejoicing, 3 figures silently appeared in the sky thanks to the invisibility spell. It was Ellison, Rurin, and Serena, stood high up, watching, and realized that the pig-faced dragon was completely mesmerized by Elena's beauty. The 3 began to plan to capture him while he was distracted. The scene shifted inside Eromantium's lair, and Elena entered with a worried heart. Surrounding her were horrifying experiments on creatures, making her shiver. The golden dragon spoke. "Your name is Elena, isn't it?" She replied nervously, "Yes, sir." However, he didn't seem very interested and said softly, "Don't call me that." As he spoke, he pulled out a maid's outfit from somewhere and said with a lustful expression, "From now on, call me Master." Respectfully, he said it with a lewd tone, making Elena embarrassed. Not knowing where to hide, she held the maid's outfit and thought to herself, "Just endure a little, everyone will come and save me soon."